Welcome to another episode of Black Belts and Boardrooms. I'm excited today. Uh, Renard, do you want to know why I'm excited today?
Why don't you tell me why? Why are you excited, Amir?
Well, it's kind of a historic episode. We've got our very first guest who's making his second appearance on the podcast, and that guest is Dr. Charles Harris. Charles, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah. So now that I've said that out loud, being the first guest being called twice, how does that make you feel? Just curious.
Honored. Honored to one, be asked back. So that means my last one didn't go too bad, that you guys were like, ratings dipped and we couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, honored to be asked back. That's for sure.
Well, I think you had some amazing things to say the last time, and I know Renard and I were talking about our conversation from, believe it or not, episode 7. So that was like 40 episodes ago.
Wow.
So there's a lot to talk about and catch up on since our last conversation.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. With that, you know, get us started on the whole journey since the last, was it 9 or 10 months, Renard? Has it been at least that long?
Yeah, a whole season happened after
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole football season has happened.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So what have you been up to? Because you left us with the thought about, do the audacious thing. What is the audacious thing that you've been doing since the last time we spoke?
Um, continuing the work of modernization throughout the organization. And so just continue to be a thought leader and a partner to the organization in order to accomplish that. That's been the big work is to get people to think differently about how we engage fans, how we do the work that we do. And I think that that is probably a bigger step than the actual implementations, right? Is when you're in organizations, everybody has the goals that they have set out before them, but when you can get an organization to cohesively think about innovation in a very consistent manner across platforms, it really allows us to grease the wheels of opportunity, whether it's in revenue generation, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in fan engagement, whatever that may be. Really being able to rethink how you do it and to move into that space where I'm not in a thought of this is what I'm used to doing. This is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to reach out to do. Along with the tech, we've worked very hard to progress ourselves into a position where when that time comes for Raymond James to be renovated, to rejuvenate it. We're already doing the back end legwork to prepare for a lot of that. So that's pretty exciting too. It's just we just wrapped up our 50th year here at the Buccaneers, which was exciting in and of itself, and then entering into this next phase to reach for another 50. It's about, what's next for us and not just for the team, for the organization, what's next and how can we make our imprint on the next 50 years and have something to look back on.
That's amazing. Um, the last time I'm remembering when we were talking, you were talking about transformation, but always looking through the lens of the fans. What's different now? What are you doing for the fans that's different?
One of those you already mentioned, which was facial recognition coming into the stadium, which is a big one that ourselves in our ticketing group have really keyed in on last year, spending a lot of time trying to optimize the opportunity for that express entry, right? A new layer of moving away from friction for fans as they're coming in. There's more to do, but these are one of those early phases that, there's a combination of technology and logistics to put in there, right? Is getting that sweet spot on the design of your stadium, the way that fans come in, education of fans in order to have them prepare for change. But as time goes on, those adoption rates increase. And when those adoption rate increases, it becomes something that's familiar. There's always this growth opportunity between what's new and what becomes familiar. And I think we're starting to enter into that space where fans are recognizing it more. We're branding it better. We're creating logistics behind it that works much better. And with that, we'll start to expand that removal of friction as fans get in when we talk about being in the stadium. But I think it's a big move for us to be able to offer that for our fans to enter into the facility to have an event.
No, I think that's good. Now, if you remember when people used to hear about facial rec. People used to be scared of that. It was like, I'm not giving my face to a system. I'm not letting that happen. And now, of course, we're easily accessible to it, and we want stuff like you say to get in faster using facial rec to do that. But I still remember when people used to be scared as hell for someone to capture their face anywhere. So you just see the technology and how's it changed. Are y'all also, when you talk about the fans, are y'all asking fans? Are y'all doing any of that to like, hey, what can we improve on? Is that happening? Or is it just data y'all are collecting over time to determine what's the next technology we're gonna imprint around the organization?
I think it's a combination, right? Is we, after every game, have some type of way to gather information from fans, what they like, everything from the halftime performance to, how was your seat, how was the food, all those things that we use as decision making based on what the fan has to say. And then there's this internal opportunity for us to ideate about what is it we want to be able to accomplish and what things have we seen in the industry, what things have we seen across sports and entertainment that we have an appetite for and an opportunity for, and what's the return on investment. And so really jumping into that's been how you kind of approach it at this point, is just gather as much information as possible and then start to develop a strategy based on what I like to call is the what we say is the fan journey, right? What is the journey of the fan? Like, let's again put ourselves in the lens of the fan. Where are those friction points? Where are those, those things that they're coming back to us and saying that they had a problem with? Where are the things that allow us to better serve them that they may not even know that is there, but we're going to offer this new layer of service or opportunity. So it's always, you got groups here, and not just with the technology, but you have groups here who are always thinking about that. What's the fan journey? What do we want to offer? How do we start to implement those things? And I think once we come together as different levels of these departments, once we come together, we start to figure out what we have appetite for, what we have the capability for, and to be able to build out that future strategy and the roadmap to growth in those spaces.
I like that. I wanna switch something because you said a key word for me, and it's growth, of course. And the reason I hone on to that one because, of course, we talked to you last year. Even as a leader, you grow. What
hmm
has been the difference between episode 7 and now where we are as far as your growth is concerned?
Um, I think a part of my growth is, which I continue to do, is figure out how to continue to be a better partner to the leaders in this organization. Right? Is um, the other layer of how, from a technology standpoint, and I think it's somewhat unique, and I don't know if I said it before, but we're put in a position to see the organization, to properly serve the organization, to see the organization through the eyes of each one of the departments and the staff that we support, right? Is if I'm going to help um, an HR department, I'm going to have to understand what are their workflows. I'm going to have to understand what systems they use now, get intimate with the pain points, the struggles, places where they can improve, have the opportunity to improve. And not only from my perspective, but then I have to win the trust of those departments to help them understand how I can be of service to what your goals are, right? And I think that's really unique to a technology role because technology spans across everything within the organization. There's essentially not a single part that isn't involved in that. And so that time that you have to take, that energy, that relationship building, that trust building that it takes to be in those spaces to truly be effective, because you don't want a department to have to feel like they have to guard themselves against you, right? Because we already bring something that's difficult to do, which is two things: technology and change. That's inevitable in this position. Technology and change. How they get put in matters just as much as what gets put in, right? I'm not going to go to an apartment and bulldoze them on this is what you have to use and this decision that's going to be made. It's really about building that trust and say, hey, let's make this decision together. I'm going to tell you the pitfalls, the challenges, why one thing is better than the other. But ultimately, we have to make the decision. And I say we because, you don't want to get put in a situation where we're organizationally riding on legacy systems because you're comfortable with it all the time. And sometimes there has to be that give and take, right? So that's where that trust is. I know that it's going to be a challenge for your staff and you to change to something non-legacy, but this is going to set you up for the next phase of what you need to do. I know it doesn't look like it, but I need you to trust that I have your best interest in mind and not just myself. So that's why I say a lot of continuing to learn to be a better partner, because each department has their own challenges. With those departments come different personalities, and you got to know what moves people. And so it is not a static thing that you approach everybody with the same thing. It's really understanding what's important to them and how can you move the needle on what's important to them. And it becomes that layer of technology leadership that you got to really know how to tell a story, how to connect the dots for something that a lot of people feel like is a black hole of, hey, I just push these buttons and on the other side this should come out. That's all they know. Nothing in between. Nobody's thinking about cybersecurity. Nobody's thinking about efficiency of network flow and VLANs and subnet. Nobody's thinking about that. They're just like, it didn't work. I went to send that email, it did not go out. What's the problem? Right? And so that's where that level of communication really picks up, and that relationship building really picks up in those opportunities.
Man, strategic partner.
Hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Strategic partner. IT or just technology department, whatever you want to call it. We don't just
Hmm.
keep the lights on. We're a strategic partner for the business. I agree with that 100%. The other piece that you hit on was cybersecurity. You being, the VP of the Tampa Bay Bucks and just football organization in general, how serious or how engaged for our cybersecurity do you have to be for as an NFL team?
Very, very. Um, for us, cybersecurity is a must, not only for the clubs but for the NFL in and of itself. I mean, I think the NFL does a great job of partnering with us in this cybersecurity role, right? We're kind of intertwined. It's a franchise. We hold the level of security very important. Matter of fact, I just got back from an NFL cybersecurity event. Well, it's overall security, physical security, cyber, just everything, right? It's so important because the heartbeat of what we particularly do is the brand, right? It's a reputation. Like it, we have teams that win or lose. Some of them haven't won for years, right? But we love our teams, right? Because it's a brand, everything that goes around it, and that's a big part of what we're protecting. Aside from the data, it's the reputation and the name of the organization. And so, in order to do that, the efforts behind security needs to be a cohesive effort. There is the cybersecurity side, but there's also the responsibility of the organization to invest, to get trained, to understand their role in security, right? Because we could lock everything down, but each of the staff members has a login. And essentially you're a gateway into whatever happens. We've all seen the articles. We've seen the Vegas articles for the huge representation of just one role taking down everything. And so it really comes to again that trust building, that relationship building, to you work with the organization to help them understand, look, I'm not putting these guardrails in place because I want to make your job harder. I want to do it so we can all keep a job at the end of the day, right? I want to do it so you're not the person who brings everything down and by mistake. It's not malicious, it's not any of that, but there's so many things that are shifting when it comes to technology, access. I mean, even if we just jump into AI, it's such a landscape that there's so many breakpoints in how we implement technology, that to put processes, to put requirements in there allows us to control where those breakpoints are and how we protect those points. And it really becomes more of that relationship building to kind of educate and then build that understanding, is that this is just a necessary thing that we have to do. The same thing as locking your doors at night, right? It's the same thing. Nobody wants to necessarily have to do that, but based on the landscape where we're at, we make sure that things are secure. We make sure we can sleep well at night. Well, I want to make sure that we can work and do everything and deal with all the things we have to do without something creeping up on us. And that is where that energy and effort comes. And then you have your internal staff who have to figure out where's the landscape shifting at, right? What was secure? I mean, it used to be the MFA was the end all say all. We were good. You got MFA, you're good. That is not the case anymore. There are ways around it. Someone figured it out and it becomes well known. So now we create layers upon layers, and then we prevent lateral movement and everything that goes along with it. So it really is a continuous, like a moving target. You think you're getting close to it. You think I've gotten through the audit. I've mitigated these list of things. I should be good. You're going to hit that audit, and there's going to be another 20 things that are going to have to jump on that list in order for you to close a gap that previously existed or became something new that we figured out we didn't have a requirement for it. Let's add a requirement for it. So it's a moving target, but as long as we continue to move with it as best we can, I think our efforts really pay off because we're a very national, very public, world known league in and of itself, and we have owners who are very well known around the world themselves. You got to protect that, and it has to be forefront.
So now I'm really curious about AI and facial recognition, and how has that elevated your cybersecurity posture? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think what it does is it takes us to a point where you don't just focus on a cybersecurity standard or requirement. I think a lot of times we have to take a step back and look at our organization or where we are. And those gaps and opportunities, one, it's hiring great people who think and know. I always say certain jobs have certain thinking capability, right? There's like if you're in cybersecurity, you're most likely probably a very um, uh, you're not an optimistic person. You're looking for every way that somebody could take advantage of something, and that's a mindset, right? It is very much a mindset that you get into. So definitely hiring the right people, but then being able to cohesively sit down and really think about your enterprise, think about your network, and then try to figure out where are those points and gaps at that exist. And it really is a constant review and a constant look at what the landscape looks like, because along with the threat vector that changes, your landscape is changing. right? You get new tools, you got new staff in, are you educating those staff members? Are all your accounts aligned to different profiles and people get just what they need? Or, we don't have anybody that's been elevated to a super user and they don't even need access to it, or an administrator. All those things that happen over time because we're just doing business and sometimes things just get done. Those are the things that you're constantly looking at, because I don't necessarily always think it's the new stuff, right? The IOCs and everything that comes in. It's that thing that you thought was good, but the process wasn't followed and it's just sitting out there. It's those things that we miss on the post review, right? Those things that we thought, oh, I thought I had a rule in place, but it wasn't necessarily followed up on in those aspects. So it's kind of this look forward and this look back that you kind of have to keep doing in order to make sure that your landscape is refreshed and covered for the protection that you need it to be.
I'm reading more and more about places where people are calling AI fighting against AI or fire versus fire. Is that something that's entered your calculations when you think about using AI to protect your estate in any way, or AI tools?
Absolutely. And anybody in any job, I could care less what your job is. If you're not evaluating AI for the opportunity in the job that you hold, you are one, missing out, and two, you're going to get passed by. You're going to be the coal miner and the canary out there, right? It's inevitable. And I would put our organization fighting with two hands behind our back if I'm not trying to do it as well, because that's the landscape that's attacking, right? It is no longer just somebody sitting behind a keyboard. They've created an agent that can do what they can do 1,000 times faster and with more information and newer information and more opportunity, right? So we should be fighting back with the same thing, and that's one thing organizationally. Now I tell them carefully, let's delve into AI, right? Because we may have to make sure that our landscape is set for it, because I don't want internally for us to have problems trying to quickly implement something and it didn't even come from outside. It was an AI agent that screwed up our network, or sent something out to fans that shouldn't have gone out, or whatever that may be. But we do have to continue to look at that landscape and say, how can AI elevate what we already do, not replace anything? It really is, you're missing an opportunity not seeing that as it's an elevator, it's an enhancer. It's going to speed up the time to production. It can speed up the time to resolution. We just need to know how to implement those tools in order to activate this sped up opportunity, this improved opportunity.
So, is there any general framework or advice you could share with leaders who are thinking about AI and the governance of the AI in their environment?
I would say if you haven't done it, do it now.
Mm.
Your AI policies, your compliance, your governance, but then the driver behind AI. To me, the driver behind AI should not be delved into on trying to get AI in your organization. Have your why, your why. Right? We can do a whole lot of things with AI, but trying to take it all in is going to be overwhelming. It's going to be too much for an organization unless somebody's deciding to hire a whole department of AI uh, engineers. Um, it's really about tackling that one why and moving on to the next one. Is that way you have the measure on the investment, the time, the finances that you put into it, you have some way to quantify the return on investment. If it is simply just for staff efficiency, record that. Figure out what people are spending their time on. Implement an OpenAI, a Copilot, an Anthropic, something within the environment, and then start to evaluate what's our return? That's a quick and easy one, right? You're training your staff on how to properly prompt. You're giving them some ideas on how they can integrate it to their day to day. You're making it safe for them to be able to use and figure out. And then you can take a look back and say, what type of time are we spending on the things that we used to do, and where are we at? That's the easy one. And then you start tackling organizational friction, organizational insights, those types of things. But I would say start with your policies. Let's figure out what your guardrails are. Figure out what your strategy for governance, and then begin to do those implementations and get people's minds and comfort level with AI tools, so that when you're doing that nice big LLM with, some great data plugins, it's not something starkly new for them. It's something that they're helping you ideate on. Oh, what about an agent that does this? Or what about AI that does this? So now you're getting uh, the help of the organization, because AI is not an IT tool. It's not. It's not. It's not an IT project. It is an organizational project, and it is not a SaaS tool. It's not an application. It's not a just put it in and let it run. It is something that needs dedication to it because of the uniqueness of how AI functions. It needs to be monitored. It needs a human in the loop. It needs all these controls and guardrails at this point. Maybe someday we'll get to the point where it can truly be on its own. It's not there right now. You're putting your reputation on something that hallucinates, something that can veer left or right if you choose to, and those are the controls that need to be done. But it's still a valuable tool. It's still an exceptional, valuable tool. And so it's just knowing how to manage that tool. I would equate it to a car, right? We make sure people have licenses. You got to make sure gas is in it. Yes, it is. You can wreck it. You can hurt yourself with it. But if you're responsible enough with it, it'll take care of you. If you do the maintenance on it, if you're listening for the ticks and dings that happen, you make sure you keep new tires on it, it'll take care of you, right? It'll do what it needs to do. But to veer away from it and say it's dangerous, people get hurt with it, that is true, but it also has a lot of value, and I see AI in that same space. We just need to know what the rules of engagement are with these tools.
I love that analogy. Although a car isn't generating reports in the middle of the night in a cron job.
Uh, I'm not there in the garage with it, but I'm assuming it does it.
That's that still, I maintain what I said, great analogy. So,
Yeah.
as you incorporate more and more AI, I'm sure you've thought about this, and now I'm curious, as I hear you speak, there's a lot of investment it sounds like you guys are making in AI for automation, operations. And I know you as a leader think about the fans experience, because that, I think, if I remember correctly, was one of the takeaways I had is you love to think about the technology as driver for the fans experience. Now, as you play this forward in your mind, as AI gets better, less hallucinations and so on, how does it change what makes you nervous on game day? Does it change anything for you?
No, because truthfully, we try to spend a lot of time preparing, and I think it's that preparation that kind of takes a bit of the concern off. Is organizationally, we run through a lot of things. We do pre-game prep, post-game prep. From a tech perspective, we're testing our network, we're testing the tools. Um, I think a lot of that prep really does allay some of the concern of the things going wrong. There are so many moving parts in a game day that what happens with the fans necessarily is not the big one. It's really the big show. That really big show is what it is. Those big screens, that audio, um, the timing on events and things that go on. Those are the things that really, because there's such moving parts, and again, those are things we're human in the loop, right? Is those are the things that people gotta have their timing down. Even the camera's not working by themselves. Those are people behind those cameras, right? Are they cutting to the right scenes? There's a director in there who's doing a great job of giving you the show that you need to have. It's the human in the loop. stuff that really, makes you feel. And most of the stuff, short of something actually burning out, it's going to be what did somebody do somewhere between when it was tested that caused the problem somewhere, right? Did somebody turn something on they shouldn't? Did somebody unplug something that shouldn't have been? So those are the big things that is just like you do your checks and your double checks. And the closer to game time you do it, the better you feel because you're like, I was just there. I know it's good. But it really is this it the more the nerves is just like anybody probably stepping on stage. You're just nervous. You know you're ready. You know you're prepared. You know that for the most part things will go off without a hitch. It's just the nerves of getting out there and putting on the show that we want fans to have.
Mm. I like it. I always say, if you're nervous, that means you're human. So
Yep.
it,
Yeah.
it goes hand in hand. So I wanna get into your thought leadership. That's another thing that you've grown in as well. Your what I like to say your TLC or your technology leadership code. I would love to know what started that and what's the purpose that you have in that.
So when I got into my tech career, one of the things that I started to focus on is I realized back in my day, I'm sounding like an old man. Um, Leadership in tech didn't take on a personal role. It took on a hardcore technology role. And you saw that play itself throughout, not just from the top down, but even throughout the roles, right? You had your developers. They sat in a dark corner with their energy, the 7 Up or the Mountain Dew, the snacks, and they just churned stuff out, right? You had your network engineers that stayed in their closets with the switches, the cords, and everything else. And there was a very little interaction between business and technology. It was just like business would just say, "Hey, this is what I need. Go make it happen." And either you hit the target or you missed it. This is not what I expected. And I got this experience a lot from managing software development teams as well. And one of the things that happened in a part of my career that really drove me into it, even though it was quite important to me because in my early career, while I was doing like the support functions, you get people on the phone, you got to have patience. Like that's a whole other level of skill to try to walk somebody through something technical. So I had developed that experience, but one of the big things that I had done was gotten trained in agile development and promptly ended up leading the team and being the scrum master. And there were some things that really came out in that really solidified my viewpoint on partnership with the organization. Is you would have, I'd worked as a developer as well, and they would just literally somebody would come by, drop by your cubicle or drop some paper or something and say, "Hey, this is what I need. I need this. Let me know when you can get it." You maybe had a couple minutes to ask a few questions and then off they go and you hope you are providing exactly what they did. If not, you just wasted whatever time when you slide it back and they're like, this is not what I was talking about. Agile was a great introduction for me for that back and forth and forcing the business to be involved in the development process. And that was, you have your scrum teams, you got a business analyst, you got a developer, you got a QA, and they're going back and forth about what changes within a development environment means for data, for user experience, all this stuff. And you get these roles asking these questions, and the business person's like, oh, I never thought if I make that change that it's going to impact something here down the line. So that's like we got to create a whole new page because you just changed what was something that driven some type of dynamic rule back on this side. We need to make changes. So there was one thing where I had a couple analysts come to me and say, I have a whole new level of respect for what you guys do and the level that it takes to actually do it. That process was a key moment for me. Is like for technology, we really need to spend more time getting integrated into the business. We've often become a compartment, a separate compartment within the organization that people knew we got stuff done, but nobody understood what it was we did. And it doesn't mean they have to understand the technical, but understanding the complexity, understanding the level of a thought process that goes behind whether it's managing a network or software development or systems administration, that integration and that sharing of understanding really drove one. I saw technical people have a little more compassion for business people. You got the really technical person said that everybody's an idiot. Like there's what's the ID10T era that or the errors between the keyboard and the chair, and there got to be this building of understanding of what their skill set was that they brought to the organization, right? Their knowledge, their subject matter expertise. But then you start to trade that level of respect back because you're starting to understand why people are frustrated with whatever you produce out because you're thinking of just about the tech and you're like, I can get this to work every single time. Why are you? Well, if you understand their workflow, then you understand that that doesn't work for them. So now there's another level of understanding you have to really develop quality product because you're trading information back and forth. And I feel like from a leadership perspective, that's where my role is. That's where my value continues to become is to be that partner to the organization. Understand you from an organizational standpoint, understand your expertise, and try to bring some of that knowledge expertise into my department so that we can produce the best support, the best partnership and decision making, the best technology for what your needs are. Because the ideal way is for us to come back with the technology solutions that you need. Okay, I've listened, I've heard, I went to a conference, I traded information with another CIO, and I heard that they're using this tool. Hey, let's go vet it together. I've brought you a solution. Let's go vet it together, right? So I'm telling you, this is viable for the enterprise that which we fit in. Is it viable for you as a functional tool? Now we're trading opportunities and information. If it's not, then it's off the table because it has to fit both, right? Instead of, the shadow IT, hey, I found what I want to use. You guys go make it work. Well, I'm gonna tell you that it doesn't fit our SOX compliance. Here's your problem. They don't treat data the proper way, so we can't do that. So now we're crossing paths instead of working as partners together to say, let's get us a list of solutions and make sure it fits everybody's needs. And then that way, now we've come together on this, and that partnership in the smoothness of solutioning is absolutely key. And that thought leadership is my goal is to bring all my learning, my education, my networking, my partnerships to the table for you to have available at this organization for you. Like you tell me about it, let's ideate. Let's talk through it. Let me tell you the technical aspects of what's needed. You tell me the functional aspects that are needed. And then we meet somewhere where we can come with a real solution.
I like it. I like it. I'm gonna switch a little bit because we're talking about AI and we talk about the where we are now. I want to go back to education. So as
Well,
you as a leader, of course, I'm gonna say back in the day, I'm gonna say it too. You had to go to college in order to get the best job. You went to college 4 years, etc. Now the landscape has totally changed. So from your lens, what do you see as the best path far as a technology, someone getting into technology? Is it go to college or is it let me get these certs, etc.? What are you seeing the change is now from your lens?
so I'll approach it from two perspectives. One is credibility and the other one is knowledge, right? For credibility, at the base minimum, I would suggest somebody get a master's degree. I mean, a bachelor's degree, not a master's. And I say that from a credibility standpoint is this has nothing to do with capability. It has nothing to do with being able to do the job. It really is about Let's say you get that position and that opportunity. There are organizations that are often requiring for you to move up to the next step to be a manager, VP, director, to have at least a bachelor's degree at the bare minimum. So this is more about qualification for the requirements that are laid before you technically. And plus, that bachelor's degree gives you an opportunity to get that base level knowledge on technology, association to business. And that is probably one thing I will give credit to on getting a bachelor's degree is not to be a hardcore tech person. Learn, learn how to interact with people, learn how to public speak, learn how technology and business interact together, right? You're going to learn that in on the job, but to have some philosophies and some understanding and a level of someone's expertise on what to expect when you get there is highly valuable. But mine, yes, I would go certifications for just for the fact of having the representation that you've done the work. Um, Courses, there are tons of courses already offered for free that can get you the education and experience. And I would just say, depending on what you're doing, try to build a portfolio of what you know. If you're a network engineer and you have the resource or capability to build some some type of closet, practice it. it get get your hands on whatever you need to from a technical perspective, very much from a technical perspective. But if you're a person who is geared towards not just the technical, but moving into leadership, into the executive ranks, you have work to do because that technical person who is super duper skilled at what they do is not prepared for the work that it takes to be a leader and executive. So there's this whole other layer of education that you continue to go through. And oftentimes you have to make a decision and a concession is, am I going to be the technical person or am I going to be the leader? And I think most of us have experienced that, right? We were the ones doing it, and you have to make that decision. Be like, I love the tech, I love this, but in order to keep up with it, it's going to cut into my opportunity to learn to be a proper leader.
Mm.
Am I going to spend my energy in that space, or am I going to spend it here? And that technical experience for me it has been priceless. It continues to be priceless. I continue to be able to do it, but not at the level that is required to do it. And so I do enjoy my background because my background, I've done a lot of different things, and it gives me a high level of respect for every single position that falls within technology. A high level of respect. Your network engineers, your systems admins, your software developers, your cybersecurity folks. I've seen it. Your BI people. I have a high level of respect because I've done those jobs. And so to be able to enter into that space and to do my best to be a quality leader to those folks in that space and to put them in the best position is where I focus my energy. Because that's really what it is another layer of my job is to protect and to grow the team that you lead, right? I, I am the gateway between the organization and them. And my job is to put them in the absolute best light. So putting them in that best light is to make sure you have the opportunity to shine and to make sure you have the learning, the training, the education that you need to do the best you can at the position you're at. And so that's where I see that space is depending on what you want to do, it doesn't need to be like me having a PhD other than me being a black man in this space uh, uh, as an executive. I think early in my career, I wanted to set myself apart. That was the only goal. Did I need it to get here? Not really. Would I have gotten here without it? I don't know, at least not at the pace that I did. But it was really me doing a lot of things to make sure that no one could see me as unqualified. And I don't think that is a need now in the space, but it's really just around building your reputation and building your knowledge base so that you're ready for what's coming in these tech spaces.
That was even for me, that was, like, one of the main reasons I went to college. My mom told me that. She was like, "It's credibility," or my grandfather would say, "Well, if you wanna get the one of the best jobs, you gotta go to college." So, at the time, for me, it was either college or it was military. It was one of
Yeah,
the 2. I didn't have a middle, I didn't have a 3rd or a 4th. It was like, either you going to college or you going to the military, so I looking back now, I'm glad I went to college. I'm
yeah,
glad I got that
yep,
chance to go through that, and it's helped me definitely. Like I say, I agree. Like times have changed, but like you say, if you're trying to go into leadership, you do need that. That's for anyone listening. When you start moving up to these leadership, it's in the job description. They
yep,
they they didn't remove it. Just
yep,
because AI and all these certs came in, it's still in the job description on needing a certain degree of masters. Some even ask PhD depending on how you're trying to go. So I definitely agree with that. Amir, what do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the key lessons I took away from my college experience is that it taught me how to think about the world differently. And it also taught me that there's layers to knowledge. It's not just knowing facts, because if you go through high school, middle school, like it's all facts and numbers and whatnot. Like that's what gets drilled in your head, and then multiple choice, pick one, right? In college, it's critical thinking. And arguably, I would say, I wish critical thinking was introduced earlier to me, maybe even as early as middle school,
yes,
because that's
yes.
when your mind is really evaluating yourself, the world, because you're getting inputs from others and ideas you've never been exposed to before is now being exposed to you. So just me on a personal level, I would say critical thinking is one of the key takeaways for me. I just wish it would happen earlier in my academic journey.
And I agree with that because having done, 3 different layers of education, I would even say I didn't really get to a point of enjoying getting educated until my master's degree. And that was really because it stopped being facts and information and it started to be critical thinking, where every class was, okay, I'm going to give you a bunch of facts, do something with it. Feed me back something different. Tell me how you absorbed and received that information. As much as it was a lot more writing, it was still something that you could ponder and come back with your own thoughts and how you ingested that information, which to me did much more for my learning capability than just repeating facts or theory or philosophies behind whatever it was. Which I think that's why I gravitated towards technology, because to me it was creative. It's, whether it's coding, whether it's, figuring out your network and understanding subnets and VLAN, all that stuff, it just seems so creative. Even though it was hard science, there was a level of being able to put yourself into it and kind of rethink okay, here's all the pieces. How are you going to put them together for something unique? And I think it was probably in those spaces, master's, PhD, that it was just so much critical thinking that it was almost like, here's the science, almost prove that it's right. Like, you can almost be combative in some of it because it's like, why is it that way? Or why is this? And ask those questions. And I think in those spaces where you can be critical is where your best education comes. And I think those are there are two spaces where you can get really, really knowledgeable at. Train somebody to do what you think you can do, and to be critical of what you think you know. Because in those spaces, you start to fill in gaps and understand the whys and the whats and everything else in between it, rather than just feeding information back. And it's the same thing when you train somebody on something, you start to scrutinize the knowledge. They start asking those same questions, and you're like, well, it's like this because, or this is why you should do it, because you're filling in all those gaps even for yourself, even though you've probably done it automatic. You probably haven't always thought all the way through why and how, and those two spaces really drive knowledge in where you own that knowledge.
I'm reminded of I forget who said this, but the knowledge is between the input and the response, or the learning is between the input and the response, right? I think it's a variation of what Viktor Frankl was talking about, is that to suffer is a choice that you make. And it's the same with learning. What we do in technology and engineering is basically problem solving. So the inputs you have available to you is not where the learning is what is that response? And then the space between the input and that response, right? So
Very
anyhow,
good. Yeah, I like that.
so Charles, I think we're coming up to the top of the hour here. I want to be
Mhm.
respectful of your time and Renard's time. Um, how does a lightning round sound to you?
Let's go. Let's shoot it.
All right. Renard, we're gonna tag team this one, my friend.
Okay, we are? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. How about we switch it up a little? You be the first one. How's that sound?
Oh, man. Okay, okay. Let's see. No, you know what? You go first. Right? I like you roll with it first. You roll
All
with it
right.
first.
All right.
You roll with it first.
So I know we talked about express entry, Charles. Uh, one word only, cool or creepy? All right. I like it. I like it.
Okay, okay. I like that one. I like that one. What about let's see, stadiums. What's one of the, of course you're at Tampa Bay, but what's one of the best stadiums that you've never visited?
Oh, never visiting.
Never visited.
Um, does it have to be football?
Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be.
Uh, Into It Dome, the
Okay.
Clippers. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I hear great things about it. I haven't been able to visit yet, but I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah.
All right. So you have zero budget, zero timeline. And what's that one AI feature you want to launch at Raymond James Stadium?
Mm, you said zero budget. Oh wow.
Infinity. You've got no limit on your budget.
Oh no,
One
no
AI
limit
feature.
on the budget. Please, AI wayfinding within the facility. Something that recognizes where you at, and all you do is put in where you want to go, and it'll tell you and walk you through it. Any question you need to ask at Raymond James Stadium at the palm of your hand, and AI to tell you what you need to know.
I
I think we
like it.
just figured out what's going on your 2027 roadmap.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I got one for you. Last time your theme music was LL Cool J Mama Said Knock You Out. Has
Yes.
that changed or is it still the same?
I think it'll probably always be the same. There's nothing that drives me more than that, right? That we all know that there has to be a level of fight in this position in order to really do what you got to do, and I've kept that fight for me.
I like that. Consistency. All right. So I got one for you. So last time we met, you had mentioned what I think is a memorable quote: "Be willing to do the audacious." Let's say
Hmm.
this was an award. Be willing to do the audacious.
Hmm.
Who is the technology executive you think today most deserves that award?
Okay, so I will have to say there is the CIO of the 49ers, a very impressive individual. His name is Costa. They're doing some really great things involving AI. He does a lot of posting on LinkedIn as well, but definitely the work that he's doing out there is is very innovative. Like you're talking about the Audacious, they've been working on redesigning their app for the facility. He's done a good job of training his executives on AI and then doing a lot of projects surrounding it. So I'd probably say the 49ers CIO.
I like it. I like it. I'm gonna give you one more halftime show, past or future. You wish that you could be an IT lead at.
Whew. Oh, uh, halftime, probably Kendrick Lamar,
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
his halftime
That
show.
was a good
That
one.
was a pretty good one. I
That
think
was a good one.
that one, yeah, yeah. I probably would have helped him do a better job, but on the technical side. But yeah,
All right. Charles, you are such a good sport, my friend. Thank you so much for making time today. One of the things we love about the leaders that come on this show is that, they certainly highlight that they've earned their stripes through their craftsmanship, and you, sir, are no exception. Thank you very
thank
much
you.
for making time for us today. Any parting thoughts you'd like to leave for the listeners? Maybe something interesting or something, an idea that you're working on?
No, uh, I think right now I continue to press forward to really make a mark within the organization, right? And not just for me, for my department, for the organization in itself. And, it's always the work is in this space to have a space where people can recognize the technology for the Buccaneers and be proud of that. Not for the namesake, but just something to be proud of. Because in this community, you want the Bucks fans, Tampa fans, to be proud of the space that they're in, proud of the team that they support. And I hope that also we get we can continue to get to that point where technology is one of those spaces where they're proud of what we've been able to do for them in this space. That's I think that's the continued work. That's the thing that gets me up in the morning. It gets me into the office to keep going.
That's amazing. Well, Charles, with that, I will say thank you so much again for making time for us. To the Black Belts and Boardrooms listeners, I would say please like us, subscribe on YouTube. You know the drill, all the social media stuff. But what is most valuable is if you can go to Apple Podcast and write a comment and like us there, because I think that will help other listeners also catch wind of this show. And with that,
Okay.
Renard, any parting thoughts, my friend?
And the only thing I have to say is who dat? Saints. We the best. That's it. Even though Charles is that's my guy right there, and I know he works for Tampa Bay, but I'm always gonna be a Who Dat fan. I wear the jersey every time. But no, honestly, we do appreciate it, man. I don't say this about many people that I know, but you are a person that I would work with anytime, man. You're a great leader. I appreciate what you
Appreciate that.
do. I get to see it from way over here in Dallas, Texas, man. But inspirational. Definitely appreciate and see what you do, man. You inspire me on a regular basis, man. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you both. Same to you both.
That we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.